Roosterweight. At the very bottom of the men's divisions, you find the Roosterweight class. These are the lightest competitors in all of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, usually weighing under 57.5 kilos or around 127 pounds. Roosterweight is a weight class that many casual fans overlook because the athletes aren't as physically imposing as the heavier divisions. But in reality, Roosterweight has produced some of the most technical, most precise, and most innovative Jiu-Jitsu the sport has ever seen. If you want to study clean technique, balance, and efficiency, this is where you look. What makes the Roosterweight division so fascinating is the way size shapes the game. These athletes are smaller, faster, and often more flexible than competitors in other weight classes. They rely less on raw power and more on speed, timing, and strategy. Sweeps and transitions happen at lightning pace. Scrambles are constant, and you rarely see someone dominate purely with strength. Instead, it's about angles, leverage, and maintaining non-stop pressure through movement. For that reason, matches at Roosterweight often look more like a chess game in fast forward, where each move has to be razor sharp or it gets punished immediately. Throughout the years, Roosterweight has built its own set of legends. Caio Terra is one of the first names that comes to mind. With multiple ibjjf world titles, he's known not just for winning, but for his outspoken belief in technique over strength, and his famous line being, "Technique conquers all." Watching Caio compete was like watching a masterclass in timing and precision. Bruno Malfacine is another giant of the division, despite standing just over 5 feet tall. With 10 IBJJF World Championships to his name, Malfacine is widely considered the greatest Roosterweight of all time and one of the greatest competitors in Jiu-Jitsu period. His dominance was so complete that for nearly a decade, you could pencil him in as the favorite before a tournament even started. What's interesting about Roosterweight, though, is how different its role is compared to heavier classes. You don't often see these athletes crossing over into MMA or no-time-limit submission events, because their frames don't carry the same physical intimidation. Instead, they've carved out a niche as the purest example of Jiu-Jitsu as an art. If the heavier divisions show how grappling works with strength and size, Roosterweight shows how far technique alone can take you. The division also inspires a particular kind of loyalty from fans. Smaller practitioners all over the world look to Roosterweight champions as proof that Jiu-Jitsu really does work for everyone, regardless of body type. It's a reminder of the martial arts roots where leverage and skill were meant to let the small defeat the big. And while the spotlight in Jiu-Jitsu often shines on the heavier, more marketable stars, those who study the sport know just how important this division has been in shaping the technical evolution of grappling. Light featherweight. If Roosterweight shows the smallest athletes pushing the limits of pure technique, then light featherweight is where that same precision meets just a little more strength and physicality. Sitting just above Rooster, this division usually caps around 64 kilos, or about 141 pounds. On paper, that might not sound like a big jump, but the difference is noticeable. Light featherweight competitors are still fast, still incredibly technical, but now you start to see more pressure, more dynamic takedowns, and a style of jiu-jitsu that blends speed with force. Over the years, light feather has been home to some of the most iconic names in Jiu-Jitsu. Mikey Musumeci is one of the standout figures of this division. Known for his obsessive study of technique and his calm, analytical style, Mikey made history as one of the first Americans to consistently dominate the IBJJF black belt worlds. His precision in back attacks, leg entanglements, and guard work proved that light feather wasn't just a Brazilian stronghold anymore. It was a global division where anyone with enough skill could rise to the top. Another key figure is Paulo Miao, whose deep guard play and endless barimbolos became a defining style of his time. Alongside his brother João, Paulo showed that light featherweight could be just as dominant and innovative as any heavier class. What makes light featherweight unique is its balance. Unlike Roosterweight, which is almost entirely about speed and micro movements, light feather allows just enough size for athletes to impose themselves with pressure passing, wrestling, and physical guard retention. Matches often become a showcase of transitions. One moment a submission attempt, the next a scramble to a takedown, followed by a string of guard passing attempts. It's not as grind heavy as middleweight, not as lightning fast as Rooster, but it carries the best of both worlds. For many fans, light feather is the division where Jiu-Jitsu looks the most complete. You see speed, but also power. You see creativity, but also structure. And because so many of the sport's great rivalries and innovations came from here, it remains one of the most respected weight classes to this day. Featherweight. If light featherweight is where speed and precision meet, then featherweight is where everything starts to feel complete. At around 70 kilos or 154 pounds, this is the weight class that has always been one of the most stacked and competitive in jiu-jitsu. The athletes here are big enough to impose pressure and explosiveness, but still small enough to keep the pace fast and technical. That balance has made featherweight one of the most entertaining divisions to watch, and year after year it's produced some of the sport's most legendary names and rivalries. One of the greatest names to the featherweight is Rafael Mendes. Rafa's creativity creativity reshaped the modern game, from new barimbalos to backtakes to new variations of guard play. But before Rafa's era, the division already had trailblazers like Mario Rice. Rice was a pioneer of the early 2000s, known for his aggressive passing, relentless scrambles, and ability to shut down guards that were considered untouchable at the time. The clash of styles between the old guard, represented by fighters like Rice, and the new generation led by Rafa, showed just how much featherweight was driving the evolution of jiu-jitsu. Featherweight's depth didn't stop there. Augusto Mendes brought his wrestling-heavy approach to the division and claimed world titles, proving that takedowns and top pressure could succeed against even the most dynamic guard players. And more recently, names like Kennedy Maciel and Yanni Grippo have carried the division forward, keeping it stacked with fresh talent. What sets featherweight apart is the variety. Matches can swing between lightning-fast scrambles, methodical passing, or submission hunting sequences. Some athletes play the modern guard game, others rely on wrestling and pressure, and many blend both into a complete style. For fans, that means featherweight always delivers. It's technical, it's dynamic, and it represents the balance that makes jiu-jitsu so compelling. Lightweight. Lightweight sits at 76 kilos, or about 168 pounds, and it's one of the most stacked divisions in jiu-jitsu history. The athletes here are big enough to bring serious strength and explosiveness, but they're still fast and conditioned enough to keep a relentless pace. That balance makes lightweight one of the hardest brackets in any tournament, and a weight class that's produced some of the cleanest, most technical grappling the sport has ever seen. One of the true kings of this division is Lucas Lepri. His name is almost synonymous with lightweight dominance. A multiple-time ibjjf world champion, Lepri's style was built on precision guard passing. He didn't just beat people, he shut them down completely. His ability to slice through elite guards with perfect timing and pressure made him a nightmare to face. For years, if you wanted to win gold at lightweight, you had to go through Lepri, and almost nobody did. Another star of this weight class is Jonathan Torres, who left his mark on both the ibjjf and adcc stages. Jonathan's blend of wrestling, top pressure, and relentless conditioning made him one of the toughest competitors of his era. When he won adcc gold, he proved that lightweight athletes could dominate even in the most physically demanding format of all. And then there's Gary Tanan, who brought chaos to lightweight in a way few others have. Tanan's willingness to dive into scrambles, attack leg locks, and hunt submissions from every angle made him a fan favorite. Even when he lost, his matches were must-watch because they felt unpredictable and explosive. He carried that style into MMA, showing that lightweight grapplers could shine on multiple stages. What sets lightweight apart is the balance of styles you see here. You get athletes with incredible guard games, you get wrestlers with top pressure, and you get scramblers who thrive in chaos. Matches often feel like high-speed chess with serious muscle behind every move. Every sweep, every guard pass, every backtake can flip the momentum instantly, and the pace rarely slows down. For many fans, lightweight represents the essence of jiu-jitsu. It's fast, it's technical, it's powerful, and it's always competitive. From Lucas Lepri's surgical precision to Jonathan's grinding pace to Gary Tanan's wild creativity, this division has consistently delivered some of the best grappling the sport has ever seen. Middleweight. Middleweight is where jiu-jitsu really starts to feel complete. At 82 kilos, or around 181 pounds, the athletes here carry enough size and strength to dominate with pressure, but they still have the agility to play fast-paced guards and hit scrambles. That combination makes middleweight one of the most balanced divisions in all of jiu-jitsu, and for many fans, it's the weight class where the art looks the most well-rounded. Middleweight has been home to some of the most famous names in the sport. One of the biggest is Marcelo Garcia, who, despite competing across divisions, made much of his legacy in this range. His butterfly guard and aggressive submission game made him a fan favorite and a four-time ADCC champion. Marcelo wasn't just winning, he was showing the world what jiu-jitsu could look like when it was all about hunting the finish. Another iconic figure in middleweight is Ronaldo Souza. Long before he became an MMA star, he dominated the jiu-jitsu world with a style that combined explosive takedowns, crushing top control, and dangerous submissions. His matches with Roger Gracie are still remembered as some of the greatest in grappling history, and his run through ibjjf worlds cemented him as one of the most feared competitors of his era. Then there's Leandro Lo, who became a true legend of the modern era. Lo started as a lightweight, but eventually climbed divisions, winning world titles at multiple weights, including middleweight. His guard passing and ability to adapt to any opponent made him a nightmare in this division, and his legacy remains one of the strongest in the sport. What makes middleweight stand out is the balance of styles. You see athletes who can pressure pass like heavyweights, but also guard players who move with the fluidity of lightweights. Matches in this division often go back and forth. 1 minute a tight passing battle, the next a scramble to a backtake, followed by explosive submission attempts. For fans, it's the perfect mix of speed, power, and technique. In many ways, middleweight is the showcase division of jiu-jitsu. It has produced legends, created rivalries, and consistently delivered some of the sport's best matches. It's the weight class where almost every aspect of the game shines, and it continues to be one of the most respected and competitive divisions year after year. Medium heavy. At 88 kilos or about 194 pounds, medium heavy has always been one of the most stacked and competitive divisions in jiu-jitsu. It's the sweet spot where athletes are big enough to bring serious power and pressure, but still light enough to move with speed and fluidity. That combination has made it a breeding ground for some of the most complete grapplers the sport has ever seen. One of the greatest names to ever come out of this division is Leandro Lo. Lo's journey through the weight classes is legendary, starting in lightweight, moving through middleweight, and eventually finding incredible success at medium heavy too. What made him special was his ability to adapt his trademark guard passing, relentless pace, and dynamic transitions no matter how big his opponents were. At medium heavy, Lo combined speed with pressure in a way that broke some of the toughest guards in the world. His runs at the ibjjf Worlds in this division gave us some of the most exciting matches of his career and cemented him as one of the pound-for-pound best of all time. Another icon at this weight is Rodolfo Vieira. Before his MMA days, Rodolfo was a force in the kimono, with a crushing top game that overwhelmed opponents. His pressure passing at medium heavy was almost unmatched. Once he got into side control or mounted, the match was usually over. Rodolfo's style represented the more traditional, powerful side of the division, where technique and raw strength worked hand in hand. More recently, Felipe Andrew has carried the torch for medium-heavy dominance. Felipe's mix of precise guard work, aggressive passing, and an ability to finish fights has made him a superstar. Whether in the GI or in modern submission grappling, he's shown that medium-heavy continues to evolve, producing athletes who can dominate across styles. What sets medium-heavy apart is its balance. Unlike the featherweights, who thrive on speed and endless scrambles, or the ultra-heavies, who often rely on strength and control, medium-heavy is where everything meets in the middle. You see lightning-fast transitions, but also grinding pressure. You see creativity from guard, but also suffocating top games. For many fans, it feels like the division where jiu-jitsu looks the most complete. It remains one of the toughest, most prestigious, and most balanced divisions in the sport. Heavy and super heavy. When you get into the heavy and super heavy divisions, jiu-jitsu takes on an entirely different feel. These athletes walk onto the mats with size, strength, and explosiveness that smaller competitors simply can't match. At the same time, the best in these divisions prove that technique doesn't disappear at higher weights. In fact, it becomes even more essential, because one mistake against someone this strong can end the match instantly. The heavy division, sitting at 94 kilos or about 208 pounds, has historically been one of the most stacked in the ibjjf and adcc. As we move up to super heavy, around 97.5 kilos or 215 pounds, the story shifts slightly. Here, athletes are bigger, but what makes the division so special is the way many of its greats blended size with agility. Few did that better than Andre Galvão. Competing often at this weight, Galvão was known for his explosive double legs and relentless pressure passing. His ability to combine wrestling with jiu-jitsu technique set him apart, and his dominance as both an ibjjf and adcc champion showed just how complete his game was. In more recent years, Nicholas Marigali has become the face of both heavy and super heavy. Marigali's versatility is what makes him unique. He can play an aggressive guard, invert, and attack with modern lapel games, but he can also stand tall, smash through guards, and dominate with pressure. His transition without the kimono and his success under adcc rules has only elevated his reputation, proving he's one of the most complete big men in jiu-jitsu history. These divisions also gave us athletes like Bernardo Faria, who used deep half guard at the highest level to win multiple world titles, showing that creativity and innovation don't disappear when the weight goes up. His ability to sweep much larger opponents from bottom made him a fan favorite and proved that heavyweights could be just as technical as any other class. What makes heavy and super heavy so captivating is the balance between size and movement. These athletes are massive, but they're not slow. Their matches can swing from grinding pressure battles to explosive scrambles, and the stakes feel higher because of how quickly one decisive moment can end everything. Every sweep, every guard pass, every submission feels amplified when you're watching competitors this big. Ultra heavy. When you reach the ultra-heavy division, everything about jiu-jitsu feels larger than life. At 100 kilos and above, these athletes aren't just strong, they're imposing forces who bring size, power, and leverage that can overwhelm even the most technical opponents. But what makes this division fascinating is that its greatest champions have always been more than just giants. They're innovators who showed that technique and strategy matter as much here as anywhere else. The most legendary name in ultra-heavy has to be Marcus Buchecha Almeida, with 13 IBJJF world titles, which is more than anyone else in history. He combined the athleticism of a lightweight with the strength of a heavyweight, hitting explosive guard passes, slick sweeps, and lightning-fast back takes that didn't seem possible for someone his size. His rivalry with Rodolfo Vieira was one of the defining storylines of the 2010s, and his dominance at Worlds made him the gold standard of ultra-heavy for nearly a decade. Before Buchecha, the division was ruled by Gabriel Gonzaga and Marlus Maldonado, but one of the most iconic figures was Roberto Cyborg Abreu. Cyborg's tornado guard and dynamic movement were groundbreaking, proving that even the biggest athletes could invert and scramble like lightweights. In 2013, Cyborg captured the ADCC Absolute title, cementing his place among the sport's legends. Despite the controversies that came later in his career, at his peak, Cyborg redefined what was possible for an ultra-heavyweight grappler. And today, the ultra-heavy spotlight belongs to Gordon Ryan. Although he's competed across multiple weight classes, Gordon's dominance at this size has been undeniable. He brings a systematic, almost mechanical approach to grappling, breaking down opponents piece by piece until they have no answer. His ADCC runs at ultra-heavy have cemented him as not just the best of his division, but arguably the greatest submission grappler of all time. Where Buchecha once set the bar, Gordon now defines the modern era. What makes ultra-heavy so compelling is the mix of power and innovation. On one hand, you see raw strength, massive pressure passing, and crushing top control. On the other, you see unexpected agility, lightning-quick transitions, and submissions that look impossible at this size. The division has always carried an aura of finality, where the biggest men, the biggest stages, the biggest title. Now that we've gone through every men's weight class in Jiu-Jitsu, I want to hear from you. Which division do you think is the most exciting? Let me know down in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more breakdowns just like this.